Hello Hex Kittens, welcome back to Knitting's a Drag. Today, I think we're gonna have to make it a Say Something hat day. Alright, in today's video I'm gonna teach you how to make the Say Something hat. As an homage to the drag classic Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, we all know that sometimes you have to make it a Say Something hat day. And what better thing for your hat to say than, I made it. Alright, let me show you how it's done. To start the Say Something hat, you're going to need a 16-inch size 8 circular needle, as well as a set of size 8 double-pointed needles. You will also need a worsted weight yarn. I am using the Soft and Shiny in color Carnival, because I just think this is a lot of fun and it's bright and happy, and during winter months you need something bright and happy. Alright, for this pattern we are going to cast on using the long tail cast on, and we're going to cast on 80 stitches. And let's get those all going onto the needle. This is such a fun yarn, all these bright colors on it. Alright, I'm going to get the first 20 on, and then I'll be right back. Alright, so I have the first 20 cast on. Now what I like to do, especially when I have a large number of stitches that I'm casting on, I like to take a stitch marker and place it every 20 stitches for this one. That way you'll just have a nice little quarters sectioned off. And I will finish casting on and I'll show you what that looks like at the end. Alright, so I've cast on all 80 stitches, and you can see that I have stitch markers at every 20, just so it was easier to count so you don't lose track, because sometimes as you're trying to count them you lose track, and just having little sections of 20 makes it easier. And then to mark the beginning of our round, I'm going to use one more stitch marker, just in a different color so that it's easily distinguishable from the others. Now, when you're working in the round, before you join, you want to make sure that everything is lined up properly. So as you can see, the bottom part of the stitches are all facing in. They're not twisted. If your work was twisted, like say this was turned around like that, and it did that, it'll create a Mobius strip that you can't fix later. So it's very important to join in the round without twisting. So make sure that everything is lined up and oriented correctly. And then for this pattern, the first 8 rows are going to be a 2x2 ribbing. So we're going to knit 2, purl 2 around. Alright, so we're going to make sure we have just the working yarn. Get that tail out of the way. And we're going to go in. And knitting in the round is really no different than knitting flat. It just gives you a little bit extra area to hold, and gives you an easier way to make a tube. Alright, so we're going to knit 2. And then come forward. And we're going to purl 2. The first row is always a little, just like straight knitting, the first row is always a little tricky. And you're kind of getting everything sliding into position. Once there's a little bit more fabric, it's always a little bit easier going. Alright. Then knit 2. And purl 2. Remember, when you're knitting, the yarn is at the back, you're going in through the front, and then when you purl, you bring that yarn back to the front, come in through in the back, wrap it around, pull it through, and drop it off. And one more purl. And you see sometimes then you gotta also kind of come on this side and kind of help this kind of start helping shift the rest of the stitches down. So they're always moving around. But again, I said once you get more fabric, it's much easier to do. And keep going and going. All right, I'm gonna knit 2 more.
Right, and then we're coming up on our first mark, so we got our first 20 done. And you should always be doing a purl 2 right before a marker because of the even amount of stitches. So that also can help you keep track to make sure you're staying in pattern correctly. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to finish this round and I will be right back. Alright, so we're almost at the end of the row. We're going to purl these last 2. And this last stitch tends to be a little looser just because of the way that it was made. So we're going to get that one on there. And then you'll see there's kind of a little gap, and that happens a lot when you knit in the round. So we're going to pass that over like we have been. And then we're going to start our second round with a knit like we do. And then just kind of really try to pull that one a little tighter as you go, just to get that gap a little bit more closed up. And then we're going to do 1 round, so we do 7 more rounds, so we have 8 total rounds of the ribbing. And I will be back once we have that ribbing done. Alright, so as you can see now we have 8 rows of ribbing. You can see how it's stretchy and pulls in, so this gives a good base to your hat. And now for the next rows, 9 through 39, we're going to just knit around. And that'll be the majority of our hat. So yeah, so no more ribbing, just knit every stitch. And when you knit every stitch in the round, it creates stockinette stitch. Usually, like if you're knitting flat, it's knit 1 row, purl 1 row. But since you're always facing the outside, when you knit every row, all the purl bumps go to the back, creating stockinette stitch. So when you're doing stockinette in the round, it is just knit every round. And we will go round and round, and I'll do a couple rows and check in before we get to where all the magic happens. Alright, so we're 20 rounds in, so we're about halfway to where we need to be before we start doing decreases. I just want to kind of show you how you can see how the ribbing is working for pulling in. You can see how this variegated yarn is kind of how the colors pool in such a really fun way. But yeah, so that's what, different yarns will play differently within this kind of pattern. So you can make mini hats using this pattern and different yarns, and sometimes, they'll pull differently or stripe depending on the yarn. But yeah, it's fun watching how it kind of develops as you go through. All right, I'm going to get us up to the part where we start doing the decreases. Alrighty. Alright, so now we're at 39 rows. You can see how the hat is turning out. Lots of fun colors and pooling and striping. And now for row 40, we start our first decrease row. And with this pattern, the decrease rows go decrease row on even rows, odd rows, you just knit even, all the way until pretty much the end at row 55, but that'll all be on the pattern, which will be linked below on Ravelry. And let me show you how these decreases work. So you're going to, for this first round, we're going to knit 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right, so we've knit 8. Now we're doing knit 2 together. So you come in from this side through both of those stitches. You take a stitch, pull one stitch up, drop both the old stitches off. That is a knit 2 together.
And you repeat that all the way around. So it's going to be knit 8. Knit 2 together. Alright, so we've done 2 decreases, and we continue doing that around. So in between each set of markers there will be 2 decreases, and we will do that all the way around, and I will continue doing the 1 decrease round, and 1 straight round, and then the decrease round, the next one will have knit 7, knit 2 together, because you're going to be having 1 less each time. And I will keep going until it gets a little tight, and I'll show you how to go onto the double pointed needles. Alright, so I just finished row 46, which was the knit 5, knit 2 together around row. And as you can start to see, it's starting to get a little tight. You can see how the stitches are pulling away from each other because there's less circumference on the top of the hat than there is available on the needle, so it's starting to stretch out and trying to fit. So here's where we're going to start switching over to the double points, and I like to just do it on one of the odd rows where it's just the knitting, so you don't have to worry about doing decreases. And here's where we're going to get rid of our stitch markers because they're no longer going to sit well at the ends of the needles. And to transfer onto the double points, we are just going to knit with them. We will knit up to each marker. Since we had it all nice and divided into fourths, it's really easy. More. Do this, and then you can see it's starting to really have a little trouble. So you gotta make sure it's having trouble sliding because it's still kind of caught up on the old needle. So at this point, it's good to slide them back off that double point so that they're more easily working for you. And then, so we did that, so it's time to grab the next double point. Repeat that, going all the way around. Right, there we go. There's the next marker. Evenly distribute those in the middle of them so they don't fall anywhere. Grabbing our next double pointed needle. Next little quarter section off. There we go, almost done with this one. All right, let's set that to the middle. And now we grab, transferring the final bits onto double points. All right. last stitch marker. And I'm taking this last. There we go. Just knitting every stitch. And there we go. Now they're all on the double points. You can see from the look from the top. And then you'll use the 5th double point to continue going on. So the next row in the pattern is row 48, which is going to be knit 4, knit 2 together. And then also if you lose track of where your beginning of your round is without the stitch markers, if you look at where these two are connected, if you go all the way down, your beginning tail from when you cast on sits in the middle of these two, so you know that's always the beginning of your round. Alright, so then we do the next row of decreases. Knit 4. Knit 2 together. And continue. 2, 3, 4. Knit 2 together. You just turn and you move on to the next double point. And then what was, the other one becomes free, so then you use that one. And you are going to knit 4. And knit 2 together. And you can see where the decreases are falling right here. You can start to see where they're kind of taking up that last stitch and where they kind of cross over. You can see it's a right-leaning decrease, is what they call it. So you can start seeing it build on itself. It's part of like learning how to read your knitting as you go forward. All right. Knit 2 together, and knit 4, 2, 3, 4, and knit 2 together. Alright, we have one more to go for this decrease round. 2, 3, and 4. Knit 2 together. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4. And knit 2 together. So that is the end of that round. I'm gonna finish the next couple rounds and I'll see you right almost at the end. Alright, we are getting down to the wire here, everybody. We have 3 rows left to go. You can see we're getting smaller and smaller at the top of our hat. So we're gonna do row 54, which is knit 1, knit 2 together across. We're gonna knit 1, knit 2 together, knit 1, knit 2 together. And we're gonna do that at each one of these. Knit 1, then knit 2 together. 1, knit 2 together, and go to the next needle, together, knit one, knit two together. Right, and needle four, knit one, knit two together, knit one, knit two together. Now up until this point in the decreases we would do just a straight knit row, but at this point of the hat we are not. So now we're going to knit two together all the way across. So we're going to knit two together, and I'm going to knit two together, leaving 2 stitches on this needle. Alright. On to the next one. Knit two together. Knit two together. Go all the way around. There we go. One more for this round. And you guessed it, knit two together, knit two together. I see you've done this before. All right. And then for the final row, row 56, knit two together around, so that'll leave 4 stitches on these needles. So we're gonna knit two together. Sometimes if you have slippery double points, they can drop. But so we're back here. And one way, if you want to at this point, when they're slippery and there's not a lot catching it, you can bring them all onto one needle. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna knit two together. Drop that needle. And we'll leave 2 there, and then we'll do the rest separately so that we're still kind of in the round. It keeps it a little more even. There's many fun tricks you can do with double points. Oh, got a little splitty on that one. All right. Together, and then we'll knit these 2 together onto this needle. A lot of times I'll have it one-on-one, but these needles are a little bit slippery, so just to give that a little extra grip, we have here and there, and then we will cut this yarn and weave it through. Now you're going to want to take your darning needle, and you're going to go still in the same motion, so we're still going in a circle. So here's your working here, so you'll go bring your needle through those 2 loops. I'm going to remove that needle. And then you want to bring it through those 2 loops. And then it just works like a little drawstring. You pull it on tight. I like to put my hand right on inside. And then work that needle down into the center. A little pull against the thumb fingers to kind of even everything out. Then you come to the inside of the hat. And that's where we weave in ends a little bit. So it's kind of follow some of these bumps. Pick them up. just like to kind of continue in that circular motion. There we go. Fell off my darning. There we go. I just like to make one little, just kind of secure it with a little nut like that. And a little bit more. Snap leaving a little bit of a tail so that it has some give, and then it won't pop out and show through on the front side. And then we need to weave in the cast-on tail. So when I do this, I always kind of like to see, this is the beginning of the round, here's the end of the round. I always like to kind of take a little bit from that front of the round, just because remember how loose it was at the beginning. And this kind of just re-solidifies that, keeps that being splitty. Then I like to come from the inside of this rib. I like to work up this part of the stitch. Just following the natural curve of the stitch with the needle. There. After that, I can kind of come over to the side, work through these, and then work my way back down. Depending on the yarn you choose, like if it's a grippy wool, I won't always come back down. That one up should be enough because it'll have some grip on itself. But this is kind of a slippery acrylic, so it needs that little extra anchoring. So give that a snip. And then you have your Say Something hat. Now what I also like to look at is like with a yarn that's variegated, depending on how many stitches cast on, it can totally change the look of the pattern. As you can see here, there's like long stripes when you're in the regular main body of the hat. But as you get up here where there's less stitches, so it has less chance for that stripe to come out, it becomes a little bit more variegated and kind of muddled. So you can kind of just see how when you pick yarns, depending on how many stitches are cast on, the color can change dramatically depending on the amount of stitches that it's being worked across. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed making this Say Something hat. That's all there is to it. Make some hats. Tell people you made it. Love them. All right, and that's everything you need to know to be able to knit your own Say Something hat. I'll have a link down in the description box so that you can get the pattern, and it'll be available for free on Ravelry. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe, share it with a friend, and until next time, stay hexy. Bye.